Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is night 5 from 10 Ways to Weather the Storm. So, we're on night 5 already. This is Korean Kircher. I am your host for this series. And tonight we want to talk about community. The first night we talked about the importance of lightening your load when you are facing a crisis in your career, in your life, or in your business. We talked about the importance of strengthening yourself, all parts of yourself. And then we talked about the importance of persisting. And last night we talked about, staying in your ship and having all of that, to not give in to the thinking of every man for himself. So if you're not thinking just about yourself, that means you need to have a community around you that you care about and that cares about you. And that's really what tonight's topic is all about, which is creating a community. When you are part of a community, you are not by yourself, and others in that community are also not by themselves. The original source of the inspiration for this is in Acts 27, where Paul is experiencing a shipwreck, and during the storms that battered them down for a good 2 weeks every single day, people gave up. People had feelings of wanting to give up and not eating and throwing things overboard so that they could survive, so that they could make the ship a little bit lighter, so that they could survive, and they went through all of that. If you're experiencing storms in your life, being by yourself, or sometimes even being with other people, it doesn't mean that the storm will be any less bad than it is going to be. However, by working in concert with your community, by everybody putting their shoulders together, then everybody can survive the situation. So there are 5 things in particular that I want you to think about in terms of creating that community, building that community, because sometimes if you have been somebody who is, I don't want to say not in community, if you're somebody who typically are a loner and you don't have a community of people that you can go to, how do you even start building that? So the first thing is considering, do you have people who you would consider your community, people you would consider your tribe, people who believe in you or who champion what you do, what you're all about, people who believe in you. So answer that question for yourself. Who champions you? Who is there to build you up? Think about that. How do those people express that? Is it by checking on you? Is it by giving you a call, by visiting with you? How does that happen? And the reverse of that question is, how do you do the same thing for other people? Because someone cannot be building you and investing in you, and you're not also investing in someone else. This is how you start to build a community. It's not always about you. It cannot always be about you. Because in the day that you have any sort of trouble, any sort of discouragement, any sort of crisis, those are the people who are going to lift you up. As long as you're doing for yourself, by yourself, and you're doing great, well, you can be tempted to think that you don't need a community, but you would be very, very far from the truth. In reality, you need those people to be there before you encounter a problem so that they will have an incentive to care and to help you. And the second thing is, what are you about? What are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to overcome? Where are you trying to get to? What is your destination? Do those people know you are on that journey to accomplish that destination? Sometimes our plans kind of run aground because we don't have people who know where we were planning to go, and therefore they may not necessarily know how to best advise you if you go to them for advice. So it is important for you to be open with someone about where you're trying to go. Now, when we refer to that community of people, it doesn't necessarily have to mean, 10 or 20 people. You can have a few trusted people, or start with one trusted person, and then you can enlarge that circle to people who really have your back in good times or bad. However, if you're keeping your goal a secret, that it's only something that you know, how can other people help you and support you? It's not that they're going to do anything for you instead of you doing something for yourself, but it's good for somebody to know that you have a goal to accomplish, whether it's going through the crisis that you're going through, or even if it's not a crisis, so that they know how to best support you. Now, once you have those champions who are standing by you, have you asked them to hold you accountable? There is really something to be said for accountability. It doesn't mean that you are weak-willed or weak-minded. It simply means that you want to make sure you get to that goal, and having the humility to go to somebody else and say, listen, this is what I'm trying to accomplish, it makes you more dedicated to accomplish it, but at the same time, you feel that you don't want to let that person down because they believe in you, they trust you, they trust what you can do for yourself. But at the same time, if you have any struggles and they see that you're not stepping up to the plate, they're going to give you that push. When you're trying to tell yourself some beautiful shenanigans about why you can't and why you can't hold on anymore, or why things have gotten too tough or too rough, those people will be there to hold you accountable. And again, it doesn't have to be a multitude of people. It can be a few people, but you have that. The fourth thing that you need to write down and consider is, how does each side give to another? Sometimes people have relationships where one side gives a ton more to the other, and there's really a lot of imbalance. So you want to consider, if you are in a relationship with someone, how much are you giving? What are you giving? And what are they giving? This is not to do a comparison in terms of, well, I do more in this relationship than you do. That's not what it is about at all. But you need to know, how are you contributing to building up someone else, so that when they have a storm, they can make it to the other side of that storm. And likewise, how is somebody building you up? The people in your life, the people you surround yourself with, what are they contributing into your life? So take a minute to write that down, to really think about it, and to write that down. And lastly, you cannot be in any kind of relationship, in any kind of community, without having boundaries. As we mentioned just a little bit ago, in terms of how someone else is holding you accountable and how you're holding them accountable, how someone else is helping you and how you're helping someone else, you also have to think about boundaries. It's great to help other people, but if you are constantly overtaxing yourself, overstepping your boundaries, always going out of your way, that is not respectful to you. So whatever you do, you need to do it with joy. If someone can do 10 things with joy, that's great. You personally know that you can only do 7 things with joy. That is your personal limit. You need to respect that personal limit, as well as honor your gut instinct to know what your limits are. You are not there to compare yourself to somebody else to say, well, I have to do as much as so-and-so because, of whatever reason. Of course, in time of a crisis, everybody does their best. But you have to recognize that each person's best is different, and each person's role is different. What one person gives to a relationship does not have to be the exact same thing that the other side gives. So this is something which is a light really shines on that in time of crisis, because that's when you start seeing, okay, you may not have a particular strength, but the other people in your community, in your tribe, they have that strength, and you can draw upon that strength. All the more reason to not appear to be a burden by having everything, by dumping everything on the one person. It could be that the storm that you're having in your life, one person may not be able to help you all the way with that. So you should not put upon them the burden that they have to come through for you. Perhaps with what you need, there are 2 or 3 or 4 different people who can help you in different ways. And this is why you don't need a carbon copy of someone who's giving to the relationship exactly what you're bringing to the table. So look for people around you who have strengths that you don't have. Even if you consider yourself weak in that area, make sure you can reach out to those people. So join me tomorrow night for another lesson in the series of 10 Ways to Weather the Storm.